The increasing number of suspected terrorists at the U.S. border are raising national security concerns inside the United States. Welcome to Freedom Alive. The mainstream media rarely, if ever, reports on the realities happening at the U.S. southern border. But this continues to be a serious crisis in our country. So we've invited one of the best reporters who spends much of his time following illegals, drug cartels, and those smuggling groups of people across the border. Ben Bergquam is Real America's voice correspondent and host of Law and Border, and comes to us on location in Arizona. I'm thankful to be joined again by co-host Matt Staver from Liberty Counsel. And Matt, there's just no other way to describe it. This really is a crisis to the safety and security of our country.
It's a crisis. It's an invasion. We have in 2022 nearly 3 million people, 2.7 million people that illegally cross the southern border, and we have no idea where they are. We know, for example, someone came in to Texas earlier in 2023 and just a few months later killed individuals in 2023. That individual had been deported multiple times and came back through this porous southern border. There's all kinds of people from the Middle East, from Asia, from around the world. It's not just from Central America or Mexico that are coming across the southern border. They're from all over the world coming through that funnel over that southern border and into the United States. And many of those individuals are young men, military-age men. Some of these individuals are being trafficked. Many of these individuals are coming into the United States. They're being trafficked and they're put into the drug, sex, slave industry and the human trafficking industry. It is absolutely the most catastrophic humanity crisis and crisis that threatens our national security, because if you want to infiltrate the United States and you have ill intentions, like, for example, the Hamas terrorists that attacked Israel or those kinds of ideologies, exactly, the best way to do that is to come right into the United States and plant your cells into the United States and activate those sleeper cells at a moment's notice. So this really has to be addressed. Right now, it appears that there's becoming more bipartisan support to address this issue. Even some of those governors and or mayors that said these were sanctuary states or sanctuary cities are now realizing it's unsustainable. Something has to be done, and it has to be done quickly.
This is an amazing story. It's our honor to bring it to you, but our Freedom Alert is next.
The Department of Defense will now finally pay for COVID litigation. It's been 2 years of litigation since the Biden administration issued the memoranda mandating that service members receive the COVID-19 shot. Now the Defense Department will pay Liberty Counsel $1.8 million for attorney's fees and cost. This comes after Liberty Counsel obtained multiple restraining orders and injunctions, including a class-wide injunction. Military leadership was then forced to abandon its mandate and rescind the memoranda. Thousands of service members have been denied religious accommodation requests from the unlawful federal COVID shot mandate, and many have been punished, demoted, or discharged as a result. These heroes should not have been mistreated by our own government, and it's no secret that many of the high-ranking members of the Pentagon and the Biden administration need to be replaced.
Up next, Matt's interview with Ben Bergquam.
My special guest today is Ben Bergquam. He is a correspondent for Real America's Voice, and he is joining us from the southern border. Welcome to Freedom Alive, Ben.
Hey, thank you, sir. It's great to be with you.
Well, you're right there on the southern border, and you've been doing a lot of investigative reporting, particularly on America's Real Voice, regarding what's happening at the southern border. So I want to get right to it. You've actually witnessed what is taking place at the southern border. Tell us what you're seeing down there.
Well, it's hard to describe other than let's go from up and then we'll come down. And from the high elevation view, basically America is committing national suicide. We are allowing in just about everybody who wants to come into our southern border. We have very little in the way of screening and keeping the bad guys out. There are millions of people coming right now from all over the world. This has become a global illegal immigration travel industry. The cartels are enriching themselves. The NGOs, the non-governmental organizations that act as charities, there are 9 primary ones in America. They are enriching themselves, and it's at the detriment of America. And you know, all of that happening while we have the backdrop of what's happening in Israel. Basically, what we have going on in America would be analogous to Israel inviting Hamas directly into Jerusalem. That's what we're doing right now.
Let me go off of that just for a few moments, because it's not just people coming from Mexico. It's not just Mexicans that are crossing the border. These are people from all over South America, Central America, Asia, even from the Middle East. And so if you want to create a terroristic cell in the United States like Hamas in Gaza, doing their ISIS atrocities and carnage in Israel that has just been despicable, then all you have to do is come through the southern border, and you can establish your cells everywhere in the country and activate them at a moment's notice. Is that what you see happening?
I'm actually shocked that something major hasn't happened yet. The number of people that we have coming through, the fact that the government has announced or acknowledged that they've lost around that 200 suspected terror watch list suspects have come through. They've captured them, but they've lost over 100 of them. They've just basically let them go into America. There are hundreds, if not thousands more that have come through. And, you know, my focus is on kind of the border at large. And this is only talking about the southern border. Yeah. We also know we've taken manpower off the northern border, and we know that potential terror suspects are coming through the northern border as well. But basically what you have going on down here is a combination, and I'll just kind of lay it out. So you've got people coming through that are claiming fake asylum. They've been coached to do it by these same NGOs, Catholic Charities, Lutheran Social Services, Jewish Family Services, and again, 6 others. And then there's hundreds of more smaller subsidiaries that all feed at the government trough, at the taxpayer trough. The more people that come through, the more they get paid. So you have those group of people that are turning themselves in at the ports of entry. Then you have other people that are, and they're going through 2 ways of doing it. So they're used to just go across illegally, say, I need asylum, give me asylum, and we'd go through that process. President Trump stopped that. He enacted the Remain in Mexico policy, made them stay in Mexico, and that basically ended that. Now we've opened the floodgates again. They're coming through. Now the government, federal government, has poured gasoline on the fire through the CBP1 app, so you can come through the ports of entry, but you can also still come through illegally. All while that's happening, the cartel is exploiting those people. The cartel is being paid for by those people. Those people all have to pay the cartel for access, not just in Mexico, but in Central America and South America. And all while that's happening, that's all a distraction for the cartel to bring the high-value targets through. So everywhere that Border Patrol is now focusing their resources, where the so-called asylum seekers are coming through, the other areas are completely wide open. And I've been driving the last several days, and basically you can go miles and miles and miles, 20, 30, 50 miles sometimes, and not see a single Border Patrol agent on the border. And just one more thing quickly to your point. These are all, I got these IDs yesterday. So I was down in Lukeville, Arizona. I'm moving a little further west today. And these are all dumped as people are coming in. This passport's from India. This guy was from Bangladesh. We've got one from Nepal here. I've got a bunch from Senegal. They're coming from everywhere, and they come through, and I'll show you a couple other ones here. So these are actually Mexican IDs. These are people that were given asylum or at least a stay in Mexico. They dump these because you don't qualify for asylum in America if you've already been given asylum. But the reality is, as you were saying, there are many people coming from countries, even India, northern India, a lot of people that are actually Pakistani descent that are coming from India. But now we're getting word that Syrians are coming through as well. Basically, they're coming from everywhere. And all you have to do, if you don't show up on an Interpol watch list and you're coming from a country that doesn't share information with America, all you have to do is dump your ID and make up a new identity. And Border Patrol takes that takes you at your word, creates that identity for you, and allows you to come into America. That's what's happening right now. It is the largest Trojan horse in the history of the world that we're inviting into our country.
And there's just scores, you know, when you watch the images and the videos, and you've had some of those that you provided to us, just like you're letting out of a football game almost. And there's just huge amounts of people that are coming across the border every day. About 2.7 million alone that we know of in 2022. Those numbers may be higher in 2023. Huge amounts that are coming across the border. They're being dumped off in neighborhoods in like tour buses, type of large transportation buses, just dropped off and told you're free to go. So some of those people that may, for example, not come in through a drug cartel, but they're signing up with the app and they then make their way to the border, those borders, as I understand, are sort of territories for the drug cartel. So in order to even cross the border, those people that may not have actually been transported there by the cartel now deal with the cartel, and the cartel rapes them, extracts money from them, does human trafficking when they come into the United States, and some of them are put into prostitution. We had this situation just in Central Florida where this human trafficking ring was caught in Polk County, Florida. And a number of these individuals were illegal, and they were forced into sex trafficking to pay the cartels for getting them into the United States of America. So this is an incredibly broad criminal organized effort that is a humanitarian crisis of unimaginable proportions.
Yes, yeah, and to differentiate a few things. So the people that are coming, I don't fault anyone who wants a better life for themselves or their children or the family. I don't fault people wanting to get out of that. You got people, my family was they were missionaries in West Africa for 10 years, and when you've lived in Nigeria and Burkina Faso and Niger, it's you understand what real poverty is. You understand what real despotism is. And so I absolutely understand the people that are coming. The problem is the way they're coming and what that lends itself to. So anytime you engage in illegal activity, you tend to engage with the illegal bad actors. And the folks that are coming this way have to cross through cartel lands. They have to cross through criminal organized crime areas. And that goes from the start of their journey in their home countries oftentimes. Mm-hmm. If you're coming from Venezuela, you have to battle through Tren de Agua, which is the large gang down there in Venezuela, just to have the privilege of leaving the country sometimes. And then you get into Colombia and you immediately encounter the Gulf cartel, who exists from Colombia all the way up to our southern border and actually into the United States. They are the ones who run McAllen and Brownsville along our southern border. They're also the ones that we actually, when we were going through the Darien Gap, who run the Darien Gap, and we were actually there. We were involved in a firefight. We were down there with Senefront, the Panamanian Special Forces. We were going reverse flow over the Darien Gap and documenting the humanitarian disaster, the women and children and everything. It's hell on earth. It truly is hell on earth. Anyone would go through that, put their children through that in particular. But the cartels exploit that. They exploit that all the way through. They exploit it in Mexico. They take advantage of the weakness of these people. But the real evil here is, the cartels are evil. They should be designated terrorist organizations. That's what they are. But they're really just taking advantage of what's being given to them. And the real evil are the ones that are, to me, are the ones that are pretending to be good. In particular, again, those NGOs. But really, I'd say the tip of the spear on this invasion of the global invasion we see is the United Nations. And I just want to give you one example of why I say they're really the most evil. So they pretend to be good. They go out there, in particular, the UNHCR, OIM. They travel around the world. They say that they're trying to help people. They don't appear to do anything to actually stop the atrocities that are taking place in these countries like Venezuela and Cuba and other places. But you find them at every point along the way, aiding and abetting this migrant flow, this illegal migrant flow. And one of the things, we were in Nicoclí, Colombia, just a few months ago, before we went over the Darien Gap for the first time. And one of the things we witnessed was the OIM, the United Nations, actually handing out rape kits on the Colombia side of the border. So this is actually a bag that's given. They had a little van down there that they were distributing these with. And they had a sign actually on outside the van, and you started reading down. It was in Spanish and English. And what were in these kits were male and female condoms, birth control, and morning after pills. And, oh, by the way, a whistle. So while you're being raped, you can blow your whistle. But after you're raped, you can take the birth control, you can take the morning after pill, or you can beg your rapist to put a condom on. This is how evil they are. They're not saying, stop, don't go. This is dangerous for you and for your children and for your life. You're probably going to be robbed. You may be raped. You may be murdered. They don't say, stop, don't go. They say, here's a rape kit. Enjoy your journey. And that's the level of evil that we're dealing with here. We have organizations that are making millions, hundreds of millions, in some cases, of dollars at our expense. They're taking it from the United States, from the U.S. taxpayer, and they are down there facilitating the worst humanitarian disaster potentially in the history of the world. I mean, we're talking about tens of millions of people by the time this is over.
Well, when you create a system like this, where you have this open border, where people just can come across the border, and then we let them go in the United States anywhere, and it's under this current administration where this thing has just gotten completely out of control. The cartel and some of these others are going to take advantage of it, like you said. And I appreciate what you said about some of these people. Obviously, many of these people, they're trying to get a better life. But I think if the people watching this can understand, it's not about the people that are trying to get a better life. We understand that, and that certainly is an issue that we can address, but in a way that's not going to ultimately allow other people to take advantage of them and to take advantage of this situation. So there's two people taking advantage of those that are having ill intent and criminal intent to come into America, so they're part of that group. But also it's the organized crime, and it's these others that are also, as you're saying, feeding into it. They're getting money from the government, these charities. That's not helping the situation. We need to close the border. We need to have legal immigration, and when we do that, we'll stop the rapes. Some of the videos that you showed, for example, are people that are just, it's like a junkyard of people, of trash, and of bodies, of people who are killed. They either die for lack of food or water, or they're shot, or they're raped.
Yeah, it's again, I've gone into the Darien Gap 3 times. It's hell on earth, but it's also, it's paradise in a way. It's one of the weirdest, emotional places you can go, because you go in there and you're like, wow, this is a pristine jungle. It's a beautiful place. It's very inhospitable. It's remote, rugged, raw jungle, but it's very beautiful at the same time. And as you're walking through it, you say, how has this become this environmental disaster? And it's ironic, we talk about these organizations that are going around the world, and you hear about climate change and shutting down industries, and no one should be able to drive a car or fly anymore. And then you go into these remote jungle, and it's completely trashed. 60,000 tons of garbage is the estimate that is in the jungle right now. And every single day that number grows. And so it's the disaster. It's really hard to quantify how bad it really is. And until you go in there, and until you see the desperation, until you see the children that are despondent, that are basically dying. And you see it, I've seen multiple dead bodies in the jungle. I've seen them, I've smelled them. I've seen the children who just look at you and say, please help me, with their eyes. They don't say it with their mouth. To see these children being drugged through this, not knowing why they're being taken through the jungle, not knowing why this is happening, it really is, it's tragic isn't a strong enough word. But the real focus in all of this, and I think the moral of the story is, as you said, the border needs to be closed. It's not good for the people that are coming. Mm-hmm. Even if they get here, even if they're allowed in, being allowed into a country with the first act that you committed was a criminal act is not a good thing for those people. But it's really, for the American people, it is truly national suicide. We can't afford it. We're $33 trillion in debt. We're going more in debt every day. Most of the people that are coming across now are economic migrants. They just simply want the money that they can get. They will be on welfare. They will be on social services. You look at the communities that people are going to. The healthcare systems are failing. The education systems are failing. So the impacts are going to be long-reaching into the future for society as a whole. But the biggest problem in all of this are the people that are operating it. And I mentioned the United Nations. The cartels control Mexico. Mexico is basically a failed narco state. The reality is the cartels control many politicians in America now as well. And if I can make a request to the audience, if you can put your efforts into 2 things, the most important things that you can do are to put pressure on Congress to defund these NGOs, these organizations that are trafficking the people, and to put pressure on anyone in law enforcement that can start the investigations into the politicians in America that are bought off by the cartels. There are people in this country who've sworn an oath to this nation, to our Constitution, who are intentionally undermining that oath to destroy this country from within. Some purely for profit, for economic benefits, but some, there's a large contingent of people that don't like the foundation of this nation. They believe that it would be a better nation if it was rebuilt in their socialist communist vision. And ultimately, that's their goal, is to destroy it from within. That is the real enemy that we are facing. And I'm not overstating it. That's really where our efforts need to be focused. Otherwise, this country is dead. And if this country dies, if America dies, there's nowhere else to go.
Ben, you're even having some Democratic governors and or mayors that before this crisis got to where it is today, even though it was already a problem, they were touting that their state and or their city was a sanctuary city. And now they're being overrun with so many people that they cannot absolutely deal with it, and they're begging for help. So this should really be a bipartisan issue. Let's close the border. Let's make sure that we have a wall there. The wall does work, and it would work if you just finished it. Let's have immigration legal, because it is destabilizing the country with all kinds of people that we don't know, some of whom we do know have ill intent. We are funding through this process the cartel, and they're getting their funds and they're using those for drugs that are being imported into the United States. But they're also then those people that do cross the border, they are using those people for human trafficking, for sex trafficking, in order to continue to pay off their bills.
Yeah, they're not free once they get to America. There are cartel factions in America. Many large cities in America are controlled not by Crips and Bloods anymore, but by the cartels of the world of Central America, and even you've got the CCP, that's the Chinese syndicates. You've got criminal organizations from around the world that are operating in the United States.
Ben, you are doing a lot of reporting on the border, doing a lot of travel, which obviously takes you away from your family. Why are you spending so much time on this? What's on your heart that you want to share with the people?
You know, it's I do what I do. I've been on the road for 2 weeks now. I'm probably away from the home more than I'm at home, and it's the hardest thing. Part of what I do. You know, I talk to my girls every day, but I would much prefer to be home with them. But I will not allow our country to be destroyed, and have my daughters have to be the ones that pick up the pieces. I'm going to fight till the end, until we win, to make sure that they have a country that I had when I was a child, because of the people that came before me that fought for this country and stood for this country and loved this country. I believe it's my duty as an American citizen, but primarily it's my duty as a father and as a husband to protect my family, and I'm going to do everything I can to do that.
Excellent. Well, Ben, thank you for all your work that you're doing. Just in the final words to the audience, share from your heart what you see, what you want them to do, what you want them to take away from this. Because it's a crisis. I think hopefully people are able to understand that after watching your program, and certainly going to your various social media and seeing more about this. But what can we do? You've mentioned it, but let's talk about that again. What can we take away? How can we move forward to bring positive change?
Well, first off, don't be discouraged. Know that you are in this fight for a reason, that we are here for such a time as this. We are all called to be in this, and God is raising this up. You look biblically, you look historically, the darker the times are, the more that, sometimes this is a time for God to, for people to turn back to our Creator and say, we need you. Yeah. And there are certain times in life where only a miracle will work. And I pray that people find that, they find their purpose in life. But don't give up. Every single one, even if you feel like you're insignificant, everyone has a part to play in this. And first off, before you do any of the other stuff I said, first ask God what he can do through you, and then influence the people you have influence over. Each one of us have a sphere of contact. Each one of us have friends and family who they won't listen to anybody else, but they might listen to you. Reach those people.
Well, thank you, Ben. Thank you for your reporting. Thank you for your incredible service, not only to people here in America, but around the world. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless your reporting and your family.
Thank you, sir.
Matt, I feel so blessed after listening to Ben to be able to bring to those viewers in their homes this riveting, inspiring story, true story, really, that few of us get to see, really. And then on top of that, doing it on location.
Well, if the media would be honest, and if they would actually go down to the border and show what's happening on a regular basis, people around the country would be furious.
Yeah.
They would be heartbroken,
Yep.
frankly, not just about what's happening
Exactly.
there, but if they would also follow the stories of individuals who come into the United States and see what happens to them when they get caught up in human trafficking and sex trafficking. We just had a situation in Florida where that actually occurred, where people were brought in. There was a sex trafficking ring that was caught. A number of those individuals were illegals that were brought in, and they were put in sex trafficking so that they could pay off the debt that they owed to the cartels. If they would then also even go on the other side of the border and show the travesty of what's happening, this human catastrophe of unimaginable proportions that's happening to people, innocent people, then I think we would collectively come together and say enough is enough. And you're starting to see that with some of these governors who, for political reasons, unfortunately took a political position, and they wanted to make their places so-called sanctuary states or sanctuary cities. Well, you know, how's that going for you now? It's not going too well because your cities and your states are being completely overrun, and it's just unsustainable, and it's a human tragedy. So this is an issue that needs to be fixed. We need to have legal immigration. We need to secure the border. In the absence of securing the border, we, the United States of America, collectively, certainly our policies out of the administration, are fostering this human catastrophe. We are fueling the cartels. We are fueling the drug industry. We are killing people. But I think we need to close the border. That's the primary thing that I believe. Make sure your member of Congress knows that this is priority, not just your member of Congress, but your governors as well. There's a lot of action that's taking place on the state level. This is a security issue, but it's a humanitarian crisis as well.
Mm-hmm. Again, we feel honored to be able to bring these true stories, in this particular case, on location to you in your home. Well, in closing, remember Galatians 5, verse 1, which says, "It was for freedom that Christ set us free. Therefore, keep standing firm and do not be subject again to a yoke of slavery." Our freedom is a gift from our Creator. We must never forget that and always protect it. So join us here next time, where you will hear victories as well as ways you can stand up for your priceless freedom. Join us again for Freedom Alive.